Welcome to 10-Minute Tips and More. This is episode 4. This is going to be the service support request continued. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to update a catalog item reference field to a list collector field and add a for each loop to a flow that inserts multiple records into a custom database. From Studio IDE, we'll use the app, catalog item, and flow created in episodes 1, 2, and 3. We'll update the reference field to a list collector field, and then using the flow designer, we'll add a for each loop to the flow to insert multiple records into our custom table. The audience will be citizen developers. To give you an idea of what we're going to do today, we're going to update the catalog item, replacing the reference field with a multi-select list collector field. We'll update the flow to loop through the list collector items with a for each loop. Show you how you can see each record that gets added from the list collector items, and then we'll view this through the custom module in the Service Management UI navigation. In this episode, we're going to use an application, catalog item, and workflow from previous episodes. Let's go ahead and go into Studio, and we'll select the Citizen Developer project. And we can see here that we've got a custom table, some custom modules, a service catalog item, and a flow. Let's give you a look at what the actual catalog item looks like. And you can see here this requested on behalf. This is a single selection reference field. This allows you to select one user from the user table. What we're going to do is modify this field to be a list collector so you can select multiple users to submit this request on behalf of. So let's go back into Studio. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to modify the catalog item, and we're going to change the reference type on the requested on behalf from a reference to a list. We'll go ahead and select the type field, and we'll select list collector. Now our database table is not going to change, so our type specification can remain, and the settings that we had as far as mandatory will leave in place, and we'll go ahead and update this. Now the second thing that we need to update is the actual request on behalf in the database. Now you would think that since this is a reference field already, and we're going to be inserting multiple records, and the requested on behalf is going to have a single user in it, and this is already a reference on the user field, that we shouldn't have to make any changes here. But we will in fact need to make a change, and I'll show you why. If we select the flow and we go into the create record, we can see that now that we changed the field of the requested on behalf of, it's no longer visible. So we need to re-add that field, and we'll select the requested on behalf from the database. And then we'll go ahead and try and drag the requested on behalf. Now we can see that this is a list field. So if we try and drag the list field onto the single reference field, you can see that it does not allow it. It says list is not allowed here. So we will in fact have to go into the database and make the change there as well. So let's select requested on behalf. This time we'll go in and we'll select list. And now our reference specification is still going to be the same. It's going to be on the user table. And we'll leave all of our settings as is, and we'll select update. Now that we've got our catalog item updated, as well as our database field, we'll go ahead back into the flow, and we will modify this. The first thing we need to do is add the new field requested on behalf. And then we're going to go ahead and select the requested on behalf list from our catalog item. And this time we can see that it does allow it. We'll go ahead and click done. Now what we need to do to be able to handle inserting multiple records is we need to loop through the list control and insert records for each. So we're going to select flow logic. We're going to select for each. And it's asking us to drag the list into this area. So that's what we're going to loop on. We're going to go ahead and select requested on behalf. That's all it's asking us to do at this point, so we'll click done. Now we need to bring the creating of the service support record inside of that loop. So we're going to grab that action and we're going to drop it inside the for each loop. So inside of this one, the only change that we need to make here is that we need to change the requested on behalf field. Originally it was using the full list, and this time in the data pill under step 2, we're going to expand that record, and we're going to go down and select the name field. So each time it loops through the requested on behalf list, it's going to grab the name field from that user lookup. We'll go ahead and click done, and that takes care of the changes that we need to make to our flow. We'll go ahead and select save, and we'll make sure to activate it, and we can see that was successfully saved. So we'll go ahead and close the flow designer, and we'll come back to our catalog item. If we reload this, we'll now see that we have the option to select multiple users. If we simply select a user and then click back, it'll bring up the user list again, and we can select multiple users. So we'll fill out the rest of the form, and we'll click request. So now what it's doing is it's going through each user in the list, and it's going to create a separate record for each. So if we go back to our database table and we show list, we'll now see that we have 3 additional records, 18, 19, and 20. And if we go into each of them, we will see the different users. There's Alejandra, Andrew, and Audra. So we can see how it's easy to switch an application to make modifications to a catalog item when using a reference field and switching that to a list collector and inserting multiple records for each user selected. We can also take a look at this from the classic navigation. We'll go ahead and select Citizen Developer, and we can see we've got the service support. We'll click on all, and again, we see the same listings of each of the inserted records. Let's go ahead and wrap this episode up by giving a quick review of the things we did in this episode. We updated the catalog item, replacing the reference field multi-select list collector field. We did that by going into the catalog item itself and going down to the variables and selecting the reference field requested on behalf. Once we click that, we change the type field from reference to list collector. We didn't need to change the list table it points to because we still wanted to point to the user table. Then we went into the flow and we updated it to loop through the list collector items. So if we go here into the flow and take a look, so as you know, our flow gets the catalog variables, and then we had a create record action. So what we did, added a for each loop to list through the requested on behalf list collector items. Each time it loops through, it creates a new record, and it sets the requested on behalf to the user record name data pill that's generated by the for each step. And it will create a new record for each item in the list, as we see the 3 records here. We can dive into each of those items and take a look at further detail for that specific record with the unique user entry. Lastly, we took a look at how we can view this within the classic navigation by going to our application module. So if we type in Citizen Developers and we go to all, we see the items here as well. You've been watching episode 4 of 10-Minute Tips. And here's some information about the author. I've included my email address, my LinkedIn, as well as my YouTube channel.